hope you didn't have nightmares over that last video I posted with that judge from California talking about her brand of justice. But that was Halloween Eve. It's now Halloween, and we have to ramp up the fright. And for this episode, our Halloween special, I have something very scary. It seems that the community leaders, as they call themselves, gathered in Kenosha to talk about the upcoming Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Although marketed as a call for peace, wait until you hear what they actually say. Hide the kids, because it's going to get really frightening. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
I must thank Lee Ski, one of my commenters, for alerting me to this video. It doesn't start out particularly frightening. We're going to have Hannah Giddings getting up there and she's going to spew a whole bunch of falsehoods. But wait until later.
The upcoming week or weeks, and just to remember that no one is standing alone, that we're here with you, we're a community, we're going to stand together. And, you know, we've been through a lot over this last year and like a half, but, you know, we've shown what we're made of here in Kenosha, and that bad actors are not welcome here, and we do not, we don't condone in any type of violence. We want everything to remain peaceful.
We don't condone violence and we want it to remain peaceful. Okay, that would be a very good theme for the rest of the day. How's it going to work out?
Everyone has a right to protest and be heard, but there's a way that it should be done. And we want everyone to go home at night. So we know people are going to be out there, but we just want to continue to give the same message that we did last year. Please remain peaceful. We don't want any community destruction, property destruction. We don't want any more lives lost or harmed. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring up our first speaker, and that is going to be Hannah.
See, they're already preparing for the protests. They're getting ready for it. And she says, we want to send the same message that we sent last time. Well, the message last time was about the injustice of the Jacob Blake shooting. However, both the state and the feds, the Biden administration, investigated and found the shooting justified. So what is your message this year?
Oh boy. Sorry. Hi everybody, my name is Hannah Giddings. Anthony Huber was my partner. And I apologize in advance. I kind of just threw this together last minute, just kind of wrote down some of the things that I've been thinking and feeling, you know, with the sudden revival of everything happening with the trial coming up. As we pass the year anniversary of the most memorable event in Kenosha and probably a lot of our lifetimes, I'm sure that we're all dealing with a lot of different feelings. I wanted to share some of mine with you. August 25th, 2020 is a day I will most definitely never forget. I've had a lot of time to think about how a lot of things that transpired are things that I never thought I would have to deal with personally. Losing my soulmate, my partner, my best friend, planning a funeral for him, explaining the concept of death, and a constant person in our lives being suddenly gone to my then 3-year-old daughter.
Just to be clear, it's not Anthony Huber's daughter. I'm not making anything of it, but I just don't want people to get the impression that he left behind a daughter. It's hers, from a previous marriage.
getting constantly harassed by people mocking and even celebrating a loss so painful and heartbreaking to me and to all of us. Then some of my more prominent feelings then were unabridged anger, confusion, despair, overwhelming sadness. At some point, I began to wonder how things might be from Kyle Rittenhouse's perspective.
Well, this might be interesting. Maybe she's going to feel empathy for somebody who is on trial and could spend the rest of their lives in prison. We'll see.
I think we can all agree that he had a shocking amount of support and appreciation for what he did, and make no mistake, what he did was this: come to
Including having somebody creating about 400 videos for him. I wonder what she thinks of me. She probably has never even heard of me.
our city and murder 2 innocent people and seriously injure and inflict lifelong trauma on another. But I also realized that even though he had a lot of support, he also was a 17-year-old child who was blindly following with all his heart a belief system that he was raised in and had just permanently altered 3 people's lives, arguably also the lives of everybody there that night.
Now, what was this belief system? White supremacy.
I also spent a lot of time trying to figure out where to direct the blame that was so heavy upon all of us. Definitely Kyle Rittenhouse, but I feel that there is so much more, our bond. I was hoping that by sharing some of my feelings with you, it would give a small sense of relief, because I know that we're all feeling these things to some degree.
So much for the empathy. Who are we to blame? Certainly Kyle Rittenhouse.
And we need to support each other to continue to organize together and stand united as a front. This is the concept that drove Anthony and I to join everyone in protest that night in solidarity with Jacob Blake. This is the concept that he gave his life for. This is what he believed in.
Yeah, he gave his life for what concept? Defending a person who was trying to steal a car with a bunch of kids in it and was armed with a knife, who had already assaulted police officers. That's the concept that they believe in. Keeping in mind that Jacob Blake was a domestic violence abuser. There's no sympathy for his victims at all. None. They don't care.
And no matter how many times the system continues to fuck us, we have to hold each other through the outrage and pain and rise up again until that system is changed for the better. I hope that we never forget or let anyone forget the names of Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber. No matter what anyone says, judge, jury, or otherwise, they were unnecessary victims of a senseless crime.
So in other words, no matter what evidence unfolds during the trial, it doesn't matter. Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty. She's basically saying that. What's the point of having a trial?
Anthony Huber and Gage Grosskreutz were heroes who protected who knows how many other lives had they not stood up against an active shooter.
Actually, none. If you look at the footage, if they had not attacked him, Kyle would have made it to the police. He's running towards the police. They attacked him from behind. They didn't save any lives. Kyle passed by scores of people on his way to trying to get to the police. He didn't shoot any of them. He wasn't going to shoot anyone. Go back, look at the footage. He's not even threatening people. He's trying to make it to the police. And he told Gage Grosskreutz that's where he was going. They tried to stop him from getting there. And now this narrative has turned where Gage and Anthony Huber saved all these lives of people that Kyle would have shot if they hadn't acted. It's a complete lie.
There's going to be a lot of attention paid to a young man named Kyle Rittenhouse over the next couple weeks. But I think what we really need to put our attention is on Anthony Huber and Jojo Rosenbaum.
Why? It's Kyle Rittenhouse who's going to be impacted by what's going on over the next week. Those guys are dead. They have already been judged. God has already judged them.
Two heroes. And these two heroes stand in a long line of allies who have sacrificed their life in the movement for Black life. I think of Heather Hoyer in Charlottesville not too long ago. I think of Reverend Jim Reeve in Selma in the 60s. They stand in a long line of people who saw injustice and were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, who were not fearful about the potential cost they would pay.
So we're starting to stir up racial hatred here. This is about painting Kyle as a white supremacist. In other words, even though the people he shot were white, they were really kind of black.
And so on this evening, I hope we will remember their courage, their bravery, and the way they were
terrorism and
I don't know. It wasn't my editing. And by the way, you might know who this jackass is. This is Billy Violent, or Whitney Cabal. She's a Kenosha hothead. Every town has that one crank. Okay? This crank usually shows up at all the city council meetings, is insulting, demands the podium, won't get off the podium when their time is up. That's her. And she is a filthy human being. And by the way, she's the one that followed Kyle Rittenhouse to Pudgy's and called the cops on him. I have a couple of videos on her. The time that she showed up at the city council meeting and squirted the antibacterial soap on her in a sexual sort of metaphor was thoroughly disgusting. She was also the one shown in Portland telling a police officer that she hoped he died. And she's a friend of Mike Gravely, the district attorney. She texts him all the time. I have a video on it where I actually read the text messages. Yeah, Kyle is fighting more than you think.
entirely giving them a complete and total pass. We cannot afford a pass on this. We cannot continue to shove our heads in the sand and pretend that white supremacy is not a problem in America.
It's not a problem in this trial because there's no evidence whatsoever that Kyle is a white supremacist. None.
In full transparency, I fear for both outcomes. While my expectations are high that Anthony Gage and JoJo will receive a crumb of justice, I do not personally have high hopes for a positive outcome. Thank you.
In other words, get ready for an acquittal, and we all need to prepare for that, which means riots. By the way, on video, she is seen saying that she supports violent expression during protests.
I want to talk a little bit more about the concept of heroism, self-defense, and protecting our community. There's many out there who would and have been saying that Kyle Rittenhouse is a hero, that he came here to protect Kenosha, that he acted in self-defense.
Well, see, he is on video protecting property. So I guess that's right. That's correct. Whether you think it was misguided or not, that's one thing. But he certainly felt that he was there to protect property.
But the experiences that I've had over the last year and some months have shown me what true heroism is, what true protection of the community is, and what true self-defense is. I've watched so many people in this room and around.
What true self-defense is. Boy, we have a self-defense expert here who's going to tell us.
Around the community, be true heroes, be really there protecting the city. So many of the activists here and community members who aren't here, organizations, we're out there every night, not with guns, but with words, asking people not to burn down the city, asking people to stay safe.
Asking people not to burn down the city. Yeah, very effective. Yeah, it was very effective.
Stay safe. So many community members have come together, have acted as medics like Gage did, have stood up for rights like Anthony and JoJo.
Kyle Rittenhouse showed up as a medic too. We'll ignore that.
That's what real heroism, protection, and self-defense are. Kyle came from a different community, and he left after killing 2 people and hurting another.
He came from a different community. Well, so did Gage Grosskreutz. Gage came from a further distance than Kyle did. And I don't think that Gage had any connection with Kenosha, as far as I could tell. Kyle worked in Kenosha. His best friend lived in Kenosha. His father lived in Kenosha. So I would suggest that Kyle was probably a more integral member of your community than Gage was.
That's not what I want a hero to be in Kenosha. Violence breeds violence.
That's right. Violence breeds violence. And therefore, if you attack a kid who's carrying a rifle, you might wreak violence by engaging in your own violent act. That's what she should have told Anthony and Gage, and especially Joseph Rosenbaum.
You can't come to our city with a weapon talking in advance about how excited you would be to shoot, to kill a protester, to kill a rioter or a looter.
Actually, he did not do that. This is called a lie. He did say something about wishing he could do something 2 weeks prior in Chicago. But she's trying to paint a different image. She's trying to tell the community that Kyle expressed these sentiments before he came to Kenosha. And therefore, that's why he was there in Kenosha. An absolute falsehood. She should be ashamed of herself. This is just blatant lies.
And say that that's a hero. This community is so strong, and there's so many people that care so much, and I want to see those people be safe. I want to see protesters continue to be safe and exercise their First Amendment rights. I want to see people continue, like they did last summer, to make sure that everyone in Kenosha has the food they need, have the clothes on their backs that they need, have the resources that they need. That's true heroism.
That has nothing to do with this. And by the way, your community is so strong. Yeah, it didn't look too strong on the night of the protests when half the damn city was on fire. How strong was it then? Where were these community heroes that you're talking about during that time? Why weren't they stopping it if they're such big heroes? The answer is probably a bunch of them were setting fires to the cars.
That is true community protection and support. That's what I want the definition of a hero in Kenosha to be. Do I believe that our justice system, our criminal justice system, can truly bring justice? No, I don't.
In other words, get ready for an exoneration, and therefore we need to take to the streets and burn the city down again.
But we cannot set a precedent that it is fair and just to come into the street and kill 2 people. We cannot do that. It puts all of our lives in danger, and it sets a standard that in Kenosha, if we want protection and we want heroes, we want people to come into our streets and kill each other. We do not want that. We want the love that I've experienced, so much love from the people in this room, from the people in this community. Love and nonviolence breed more love and nonviolence. Violence and guns breed more violence and guns.
Yeah, what about the night before when they burned down the city? Where was the love then? You're painting a fantastic image of a community that is so strong because of its love that people are safe and they're not hurt. However, the reality is much different. Back in August, all the love and all of the safety disappeared. At night, when your compadres, the people that you consider your allies, burned down the city, that prompted the people to come in the next day to protect the property. If your compadres had not burned down the city, those people wouldn't have shown up. And that is an undeniable fact.
Kyle Rittenhouse is not a hero. He was not defending himself, and he was definitely not protecting our community. We are protecting our community.
He was not protecting himself? So in other words, you have access to all the evidence. You have seen all the evidence of discovery, and you can make that conclusion? Okay.
Anthony, JoJo, and Gage were protecting our community. All the supporters of Jacob Blake and his family were protecting our community.
JoJo was protecting your community. That's an interesting thought. Let's all think about that. Joseph Rosenbaum, according to her, was protecting her community. Wow.
Shoot me, nigga! Shoot me, nigga!
Now keep in mind, Jacob Blake, this dude's nephew, is the one that started this whole thing. He's the one who had felony warrants, went over to his ex-wife's house or girlfriend's house or fiance's house or whatever, tried to take her kid, stole her car, got into a fight with police, grabbed the knife, tried to get into the car and take off. But he's blameless in their eyes.
Assalamu alaikum. No justice. No justice.
No justice, no peace. Yeah, this is not going to work out well. What are they threatening? It's not even disguised.
I was trying to make sure we weren't at a funeral here, baby. It's an exciting time to be in America. Thank you, dear brother. There's some things going down in this country that you should be proud and privileged that you're up and you're awake and you're alive at this time. The things that we say and do with the different organizations that we belong to will have impact on this country for the next 50 to 100 years. Everything we say is protected by the red, the black, and the green. Why? Because we're always building unity, right? We've seen what destruction can do. We're here to make sure we make enough noise this next week so the city, the state, the nation, the world takes a look at what justice looks like.
By the way, the destruction he's talking about, he's excluding the destruction that took place in Kenosha last year.
We're not here at this moment just fighting for Jacob Blake, rather than JoJo and his family get justice. We've seen what injustice looks like in this city. We're going to see what justice looks like. We have to be careful because the racism that we see may appear to be an attack on African descendants, but it's a nibbling away at this democracy. And if you don't stand up for what's right when it's our turn, it eases its way over into your territory, and now it's affecting the entire nation. It starts one drip at a time, it's one seed at a time. When Pastor talks about the mustard seed, that's what you're seeing here grow in Kenosha. Now, our heartbeat, our voices are heard around the world that we are not going to tolerate vicious, violent attacks on innocent people in the street that were coming from a peaceful protest, right? Their families deserve the respect and the honor of what we're getting ready to go out here and do. So again, we say tonight when you go home, please say a prayer for Anthony and JoJo's family, that they be able to make it through, because this takes a lot of strength. They're going to go through like hell on steroids. Nobody deserves to go to a rally and not come home that night. That's why when we, in partnership with Locke and many other organizations and individuals, Pastor Jonathan, that are here tonight, that's one step we can't do. But what we can do as citizens of this state and of this nation.
There was some editing there. My gut feeling is he probably said something very embarrassing.
Is make sure that we don't sit back quietly and watch the devil win the game. If you don't stand up in front of evilness, it takes you over. It takes everything about you over. It takes your family over. It takes your community over. We've met some hellish people here since we've been in Kenosha. So we know they weren't the one that pulled the trigger on little Jake. It was the people with the badge and the people in power. And that's what we have to change. Don't be scared of change. And it doesn't take a whole bunch of people to stand behind you to cut a conversation off if it's racist, to stand up and say that's not the truth. Let me tell you what happened. That's why it's so important that when you're out here and you see miscoverage in the news or other places, you're able to say that's not so.
Oh, miscoverage in the news. Wow, you're complaining about that? Yeah, stand in our shoes sometime.
See, nobody gets to control your own destiny and your own words, and you're not people to believe it still is. So you're not
He's saying a lot of embarrassing things, evidently.
helping us help you. Help yourself help this city. Get it corrected. That you want to somehow get Jacob Blake justice for being shot 7 times in the back. That you want this young man who took 2 lives and severely hurt another person to go to jail.
Not get a fair trial. Go to jail. That's the message he's saying that they should send.
That would show that you're not what the outside world sees right now, because this isn't a good look. And you can't have a pretty beach and want to serve it up as a beach city and come and visit the old tribe and all that, when injustices of this kind, of this magnitude are happening at your front door. There's many people that should be filling these 2 pews tonight, and I'm not sure where they are. The rain shouldn't stop nothing, because it didn't stop these 2 young men from going home.
It is a pretty small crowd.
And it shouldn't stop you from supporting their family and getting justice. So the Blake family will be trying to do everything we can this week to make sure that we get justice for these 2 families.
Well, obviously you weren't doing enough, because Jacob Blake was your nephew, and he started this whole thing through his criminal behavior. So maybe you should work on your family.
And JoJo, they were great young men, we heard. They have beautiful families, and they did not make it home. That hurts us. Because they were trying to support little Jay. Right? So we got to galvanize ourselves. Don't worry about what looks good. Put on some old gear. Come out, let's go march it. Put on your boots. We got work to do. Because reflection, this is a microcosm of what the world is getting ready to be. If you can shoot a young man 7 times in the back in front of his kids today in Wisconsin, now that the federal people said it's okay, you can do it in Missouri, you can do it in Michigan, you can do it in Nevada.
The Biden administration said it was okay too. You didn't hear the news? The U.S. Department of Justice investigated. And guess what? No charges.
They probably get the same result. So we got to fight diligently, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be a little blood. All of these things are not going to be pleasant. And
there's going to be a little blood. All of these things are not going to be very pleasant. Gee, I wonder what he's trying to get going here. Could this be a call for rioting if Kyle is exonerated? Of course it is. That's what he's saying. Oh, hell. Here we go. Justin Blake can be forgiven to some extent because, after all, it was his nephew. He's going to have a natural bias. She has no excuse. She's supposed to be a woman of God. Wait until she starts talking.
It was chanted in Charlottesville, and a Fox News host rants about it almost every night on his show. It's called Great Replacement Theory.
Which has nothing to do with Kyle Rittenhouse. Race replacement theory? Really? They scoured his social media. They found nothing like this. Again, this is the race card. They're going to turn this thing into a race issue.
The white majority in this country will be the minority by 2050. It is not a coincidence that the white power movement and white nationalists, protesters, and those present at the Capitol on January 6th were armed.
So if you show up armed, you're a white supremacist. I guess. I have no idea what she's trying to say here.
It is not a coincidence that they are fighting hard for the Second Amendment.
Yeah, the Second Amendment, one of our protections under the Constitution, which, by the way, protects people of all races. Go and get a gun. Protect yourself. It's your right. Don't complain that other people are exercising their right while you choose not to. That's your fault.
Their strategy is clear. If we can't outnumber them, we will outgun them.
Come on.
I was in Civic Park on August 25th protesting for justice for Jacob Blake.
Justice for Jacob Blake. And did you bother to actually examine the evidence? You have to understand that Officer Rustin Shesky had a problem. He has a man who has assaulted him, has a felony warrant out on his arrest, is stealing a car filled with kids, and he has a knife on him, and he's trying to get into the car. Now, all of those circumstances are Jacob Blake's fault. Jacob Blake was the one that went out and committed domestic violence that got him a felony warrant in the first place. It was Jacob Blake who assaulted police officers even though he could have went along peacefully. It was Jacob Blake who pulled out the taser prongs. It was Jacob Blake who picked up the knife and walked around and tried to get into the car even though police were commanding him not to. Jacob Blake did those things. He did them willingly and stupidly. And put Officer Rustin Shesky in a very bad spot. Officer Shesky didn't ask for this. He didn't go out there looking to start something like this. It was Jacob Blake who did everything in his power to get shot that day. And the state DOJ agrees with me. And the Biden administration investigated, agrees with me. Everybody who has examined the evidence understands what Officer Rustin Shesky was facing that day. But it's ignorant people like her who think that somehow Officer Rustin Shesky, out of some desire for white supremacy and racial replacement theory or something like that, just opened fire on Jacob Blake in cold blood. This is supposed to be a woman of God, but she disseminates falsehoods and lies.
The night that JoJo and Anthony were killed, and I talked with some of the white males who were armed in the park that night with assault-style weapons. And I asked them, why are you armed at a peaceful protest?
Okay. Were the riots in Kenosha peaceful? Yes or no? Yes or no? Answer the question. Were the riots in Kenosha if you want me to use a more neutral term, were the protests in Kenosha peaceful?
And their answer was to protect people and property.
Okay.
The reality was that peaceful protesters outnumbered them. However, their guns gave them power.
That's right. That's how you protect people and property, by having tools at your disposal that can take on a mob when you are outnumbered. Yes, that's right. The whole point of a gun is to give you an unfair advantage.
The trial of the white male, and I'm not going to say his name. He doesn't deserve to have his name mentioned, so I'm not saying his name.
It's Kyle Rittenhouse.
The trial of the white male who killed 2 people and wounded another person begins next week.
The trial of the white male who killed 2 people and wounded another, but she doesn't mention that they were white as well. Notice she emphasizes white male when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse, but she doesn't discuss the race of the people who were shot.
And there is a lot riding on this trial. Like, can I be shot and killed at a protest because someone views me or deems me a threat?
Well, if you threaten them, yeah. Well, you have to threaten them with serious bodily injury. But if you do, yeah, they can kill you. They can shoot you all day long. There's a solution. Don't threaten people. If you were there that night with Joseph Rosenbaum, you could have given them an advice. Don't go around threatening people to the point where they think that their lives are in danger. Because if you do, they can absolutely shoot you. Do I need to show her the actual statute in Wisconsin that spells this thing out?
Are my First Amendment rights going to be diluted or subjugated to an assault-style carrying white person who believes in replacement theory?
There's no evidence whatsoever that Kyle Rittenhouse believes anything of this sort. And can you exercise your First Amendment rights? Absolutely. There are a lot of people there that were exercising their First Amendment rights that were not shot. The people who were shot were people who were, well, I don't think Jojo Rosenbaum was exercising his First Amendment rights, but people who attacked a kid carrying a rifle. That's the people who were shot. And he had plenty of opportunities to shoot people who were not attacking him, and he didn't do it. And in fact, one of those people that was standing right in front of him that he could have shot was black. Wait a minute. According to this theory here, he believes in race replacement theory. Why wouldn't he have shot that black kid? Because Kyle is not a racist. He didn't care. He just wanted to get to the police. And he shot people who attacked him.
And feels empowered by law enforcement and the court system to shoot me because they know they will not be held accountable.
So she's already decided that Kyle is going to be acquitted. And that's what this is about. They're preparing for an acquittal. And they're planting the seeds of racial hatred here.
The upcoming trial here in Kenosha next week is bigger than the defendant. Because not just the accused killer is on trial. The justice system is on trial.
And what happens when the verdict comes back that convicts the justice system in your eyes? What's the punishment? She's not telling you that part, but it's clear.
The system that says people who were gunned down in the streets cannot be referred to as victims.
That's right. And I have another video called Dumb Argument Number 70. Not calling the people that were shot victims is perfectly reasonable. Convict the accused on the evidence, not that crap.
But can be called the inflammatory names arsonist, rioter, or looter.
If they were rioting, looting, and burning things, that has to be shown first before they can be called that. But you see the support for the burning and the looting and the rioting that serves as sort of an undercurrent of her argument here. She doesn't have any problems with that. She's certainly not railing about it. This would have been a good opportunity for her to talk about that.
Injustice toward the non-white population of this country was baked into the justice system and other systems, as most people of color know. And the creators of those systems created them to protect their interests and the status quo. The system here in Kenosha will be tested with the upcoming trial. Will it maintain the status quo, or will it protect and uphold the First Amendment right to protest and send a message to the white power movement and white nationalists that if you kill someone who was peacefully protesting,
like Joseph Rosenbaum,
and exercising their First Amendment rights, you will be held accountable.
the trial isn't about the First Amendment at all. This is about self-defense. Joseph Rosenbaum wasn't protesting. He was out trying to get into fights, and he attacked a kid with an AR-15 rifle. Whether you believe that Kyle should have shot him or not is one thing, but to claim this is a First Amendment issue, it is not. But they're trying to turn it into one. And ultimately, she is saying that the only truthful outcome we can have is a conviction. She has not seen the evidence. She knows very little about what happened, I can guarantee you. So get ready. Over the next couple of weeks, they're going to be ramping this up more and more. And don't be fooled, they're trying to get to the jury here. That's what this is about. They're wanting the jury to hear this. This is called jury intimidation. Make it seem to jurors that this is all about First Amendment and race relations, not about self-defense and the Second Amendment. Like my video, subscribe to my channel.